March of this year, a constituent of mine, 24-year-old Rebecca Corrigan, disappeared whilst working for a British employment agency on a Bahamian-registered, American-based Disney cruise ship in international waters off the coast of Mexico. Rebecca was living her dream, working as a member of the youth staff on the cruise ship Disney Wonder.
Hey you and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this video right here, we're going to look into an unsolved disappearance. Something about those cruise ships, guys.
Because of the implication.
It is the mysterious case of Rebecca Corrigan. Mysterious depending on whether you ask the family of Rebecca Corrigan or the multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, which has a very family-friendly image that is not really too keen on getting their image anything other than, well, yeah, that. You see, Rebecca Corrigan was last seen on March 22nd, 2011, aboard the cruise ship Disney Wonder where she worked. As with nearly all missing persons cases I covered, there were some very strange things that happened on the night she disappeared, and the investigation into her disappearance was kind of non-existent. Well, let's get into it. Rebecca was born in 1987 and grew up in Chester, England, with her parents, sister, and two foster brothers. Growing up, she worked at Chester Zoo and later attended Plymouth University studying sports science. Rebecca was described as a very upbeat person with a fun personality. In June 2010, she went to London to interview for the Disney Cruise positions. There were hundreds of other people being interviewed, but she got the job. She started working on the cruise ship as a youth worker in June of 2010 in the Bahamas, then went back to England for 2 months. When she returned to work, her second cruise would be aboard the Disney Wonder, based in Los Angeles. Her grandfather died while she was away, so she left the job and went to be with her family for 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks, when she returned for her grandfather's funeral, that would be the last time her family would ever see her. Rebecca returned to the Disney Wonder, where she remained in contact with her family almost every day through Facebook and Skype. On March 21st, 2011, 6 weeks after she had last seen her parents, Rebecca messaged them saying she would call them the next day. That same day, the ship pulled out of Los Angeles and began its journey through the ocean. The next night, on March 22nd, Rebecca's parents heard no word from her and became worried. As I said, she contacted them every single day. Their fears were confirmed when they got a call that night from a Disney official telling them that their daughter was missing. That morning, Rebecca had not turned up for her 9 a.m. shift while the ship was off the coast of Mexico, bound for Puerto Vallarta and Cabo San Lucas. Her co-workers searched her room and everywhere else she could have been on the ship. They found just absolutely no sign of her. They got no response from any pages on the ship's public address system. The next step was to review security footage to see if, and she was last seen at 5:45 a.m. that morning, talking to someone on the phone in the crew area. In the video, Rebecca appears to be very distraught. A young man walks up to her and seems to ask if she is okay. Rebecca replied that she was fine, and then proceeded to hang up the phone. She then walked away while pushing her hair back, and then putting her hands into her back pockets. Her parents said this was something she would do a lot when she was in that mood, when she was upset about something. And then after that piece of footage at 5:45 a.m., she just vanished. The crew searched the entire boat, and the Coast Guard and Mexican Navy searched the waters the ship passed through during the time Rebecca might have gone overboard. Nothing was found out there. An investigator from the Bahamas flew to the ship once it landed back in LA, which was 3 days after Rebecca had gone missing. The reason the investigator was from the Bahamas, not Mexican or American, was because the ship was registered in the Bahamas. Gotta avoid those taxes.
Search is underway today for a young employee who went missing from the Disney Wonder cruise ship. 24-year-old crew member Rebecca Corrigan disappeared during the 7-day cruise to Mexico last week. Greg Garrett's here live with the latest on that. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Megan, here is Rebecca's story. How could she simply vanish with thin air off the cruise ship? Her parents, frantic for answers, they flew from England, where they lived, to Los Angeles to collect their daughter's belongings from the ship and to search for some answers. Rebecca, whose hometown is Chester, England, was reported missing at sea a week ago after she failed to report for a scheduled shift on board the ship called Disney Wonder, a 7-day cruise sailing from L.A. to Puerto Vallarta. Now, Corium worked as a coordinator for youth activities. She made a telephone call from the ship shortly before being reported missing. Details of the call not released yet. Passengers on board are stunned.
It's very disheartening. It was sad and brings up a lot of questions in your own minds.
At one point we thought it might be part of the skit, like Mickey's gonna find somebody, but at the same time you never really know. The single investigator reportedly did searches all over the cruise ship, interviewed Rebecca's co-workers, gathered a collection of her personal items, and analyzed security footage. This was said to have taken a few days. However, after meeting with the detective, Rebecca's parents claimed he had told them he only spent 1 day investigating the case and only interviewed a few co-workers and no passengers. So in other words, it was extremely half-assed, and they didn't really do any proper investigation into what happened to her. Rebecca's parents arrived at the ship and met with the ship's captain. He expressed his condolences and told the parents he believed that Rebecca had been washed overboard by a wave while in the crew pool. The parents did not believe this, as the walls to the crew pool were very high and unlikely she would have gone overboard there. And there's also not much reason to suggest she would have been in the pool at the time. The parents were then taken to a meeting with Disney executives, as well as the woman Rebecca had been talking to on the phone that morning. The parents assumed they would get more time to ask questions later, as they were very tired, so they didn't really ask any at all to the executive or the person Rebecca was talking to. But they never got another chance. Disney kind of closed the door. Her parents then received her belongings, Rebecca's belongings and her passport, and that was kind of like, right, well, she's gone. That was kind of their attitude towards it, which, right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new addition. H.
Perico Security, specialized in cash trucks across L.A.
Do you have any idea how dangerous this job can be?
Some out there, yeah. We ain't the predators. We're the prey.
You ready?
Ready.
This is your temporary sign-off.
Why don't you flip that pistol to me? You have a problem? This 10 grand drugs. Go back fight. They're serious! Get in the truck next time! Sorry, pal. It's rolling around the bend. Let that swing keep
He's not a cop. He's not a cop. What is he?
on down the side.
Wild back. Civilian too.
There was an investigation.
We still haven't found the scum who did it. That's it.
When the Disney cruise ship Wonder returned from a 7-day Mexican cruise early Sunday morning, it docked in the port of LA with one of its crew members missing. Cruise passengers were aware of Corium's disappearance and the efforts to locate her.
They told us over the loudspeaker several times that they were looking for her.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden they said they still hadn't found her.
But we didn't notice anybody panicking or, frantically going in and out of rooms or...
I actually didn't even notice. I didn't even notice the search. I think it was
They said that they were searching, but it was nothing obvious.
But one passenger heard something much more ominous.
I talked to one of the people that picked up. They said that they found her shoes and her belongings, and they had a feeling that she might have suicided. Very quiet woman.
Then, almost a year later, nothing was discovered. It was like just closed case. There was nothing really. There was a follow-up investigation, and it was literally just vanishing. However,
that new clue in the search for the young cruise worker turns out to be recent activity on her credit card. It's one of the few hopeful signs the family's received since she vanished in March.
In early May 2011, a few weeks after Rebecca's parents returned home, her bank sent them an email saying that someone had tried to gain access to one of her accounts on April 19th. The fact that her credit card has been used could only mean that someone has stolen it, or she's still alive, her father said. Her bank card was not among her possessions. A few months later, an uncle of Rebecca's said the password to her Facebook account had been changed. He did not know by whom. And then, one day before the anniversary of her disappearance, Rebecca's father received an email from a woman claiming she had seen Rebecca with a dark-haired man in Venice the previous August. That would have been 5 months after she disappeared. She said she was 85% sure it was Rebecca. Now, her family believed this email. You know, the email that was from a complete stranger, and 85% is also a weird number to give. Also, how would she be in Venice when she didn't have a passport? That leads to a theory which kind of comes up, is that she was trafficked for something. One I have a hard time believing. I think that was just a false lead. Rebecca's uncle said it was just an email, but it seemed legitimate. It was very upsetting for everyone to think she could be out there somewhere after all this time. In October 2011, 7 months now after Rebecca was last seen or vanished, journalist John Ronson took a cruise aboard the Disney Wonder along the same route Rebecca had taken. While aboard, he began to ask the crew about what would happen, you know, discreetly, kind of like, hey, what do you hear? And he heard some interesting things. One waiter he spoke to and asked if he was aboard when Rebecca disappeared said, "I don't know anything about it. It didn't happen. You know, that's the answer I have to give. If there's a video that shows your daughter going overboard," this part in quotation marks, for example, "there's no way someone can go off a ship and it not be recorded." Now, while Disney claims to have no footage of Rebecca going overboard, they also refuse to tell anybody about the number of CCTV cameras that are on the Disney Wonder and also their locations. They just won't disclose it for security reasons. After staying on the ship a number of days and wondering its entirety, he came to the conclusion that the only place Rebecca could have fallen from is the Deck 4 jogging track. The railings everywhere else are just too high, and she was a keep fit fanatic. His theory is that after the 5:45 a.m. phone call, she went for a jog and slipped. While there, he spotted 4 security cameras. He then asked the man who works on that deck, saying, "Yeah, I'm here. She must have fallen from here." The worker replied, "No, she went from Deck 5. John Ronson replied, "There's no outside space on Deck 5. The worker said, "Go to Deck 10, walk to the front of the ship and look down. You'll see the crew swimming pool. That's where she went from, the starboard side." "How do you know this?" "I was on the ship that day. Everyone knows." "How?" "They found her slipper." John then ventured up to Deck 10 to take a gander.
At Embrace, we love mobile. We're the...
I walked up to Deck 10 and looked down, and I saw it. The crew swimming pool looks nice and bigger than some of the guest pools, but it's the swimming pool equivalent of an inside cabin. There's no view of the ocean because the railings are too high. It reaches well above headlights. There's no way someone could accidentally fall from there. We went back to the worker on Deck 4. "I saw it," he said. "God bless her," he replied. Over the next few days, he asked more people, and every time he got the exact same response. She jumped from the front of Deck 5 at the crew pool. One crew member said to John, Disney knows exactly what happened. The phone call she had, it was taped. Everything here is taped. There's CCTV everywhere. Disney has the tape. Also, after Rebecca Corian went missing, Disney had like a weird little ceremony. Weird because of this. They put flowers at the wall next to the crew pool, where they think she might have jumped from. That's where they found her slipper. But a friend told John Ronson those weren't her flip-flops. They were too big. They weren't her style. They were pink and flowery and Hawaiian. I'd never seen her wear them. Disney swear they told us everything they know, which is that they don't know anything, but most of us think, bullshit. Someone must know something. Someone's covering something up. It was ultimately confirmed that the slipper they found at the cruise was not Rebecca's. Well, a friend said it didn't look like anything she wore, and it also had another crew member's number and name written on it. The slipper had. You'd think that would have been a dead giveaway, that it wasn't hers. But of course, though, just because it was someone else's crew slipper, that doesn't mean Rebecca wasn't wearing it at the time. She could have borrowed it, somebody could have given it to her, she could have just put it up then and put it on. So, 6 years after the disappearance, Rebecca's girlfriend at the time, Tracy Medley, told that Rebecca was not the upbeat person people knew her to be. She was using a lot of drugs, and once got so emotional she banged her head against the ship's steel walls. She had also spoken of suicide before. The night she disappeared, Tracy, Rebecca, and Tracy's boyfriend at the time had a threesome. Rebecca woke up early, and the man let her borrow some of his clothes to go out, and that was the last time they would see her. The video footage of Rebecca on the phone supports this because, well, people have pointed out the clothes Rebecca is wearing in the footage, they were much bigger and baggier than any she had. And it certainly makes the theory that she jumped a lot more plausible. The main theories about Rebecca's disappearance are that she jumped, she fell accidentally, she got swept overboard, or the one that she was killed and dumped, or of course then she was trafficked. Two of those seem extremely unlikely to me. And I definitely think that Disney has the footage, but I think if it was a criminal matter of somebody committing murder or trafficking her, yeah, they probably would have, given the footage to the police for that. But the real main thing is, this case could have used, investigations. It could have used, investigations, like any investigation, rather than one person going aboard, talking to, like, two people, just, like, faffing about. If there was more than one person, or he'd actually done an investigation, which would have been his job, they might have actually found what happened to Rebecca, and this is, 8 years later, so seems unlikely that anything will be found at this point. Let's be real. It seems definitely like Disney knows more than what they're letting on, and I feel pretty strongly that they do know what happened to Rebecca, but they just don't want to tell anybody because, hey, it's Disney, Mickey Mouse. So they just don't want anything to tarnish their family-friendly image of somebody dying on their cruise ship. Doesn't exactly jive with the move they go for, usually. But that is the story of Rebecca Corian. Let me know what you think about this case down below. What do you think happened to her? And do you think that there was something nefarious going on the Disney Wonder that night she disappeared? The frustrating thing about this case is there's just such a lack of information about it. And it really stinks of a cover-up. Somebody knows something, but it's just hush-hush. And finally, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to see some more of my videos, please subscribe, and as I said, let me know your thoughts on this case in the usual space. And I will see you, as always, real soon in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Okay. Hey you, and welcome. My name's Mike, and in this old video...
Yes!
New Zealand, which is actually for the first time. So it's pretty cool. I mean, aside from a story I'm about to tell, this is a story which took place in 2018 in the city of Auckland. Grace Mullane was a backpacker all the way from England, who was planning on spending a couple of weeks traveling, chilling with the
transition a nuclear reactor. Everything went smoothly until we realized how heavy is a brick of plutonium. Very heavy. Take my advice. You need to run faster.
Joining me now, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster, who is in Minneapolis. Also with me, University of Alabama law professor Joyce Vance and former senior FBI official and former U.S. attorney Chuck Rosenberg. Great to have all three of you with us on the second day of the trial. Joyce, I'll start with you. You today as a devastating witness for the prosecution. Explain that to us, and what about that back and forth over the type of chokehold from the defense, the significance of that if you see it?
You calling for some wheels? I'm Johnny on the spot.
Well,
I'll hook you up.
This is the prosecution's case, so of course you'd expect the witnesses to be good. But Mr. Williams was particularly effective, and on cross-examination, he did, I think, a great job of swatting away defense efforts to paint him as
I'll get back to it then.
an agitated, angry black man, or as someone who was going beyond his expertise. Sort of a weird little exchange that they had there, since he's not really formally qualified as an expert. Williams talked about what he saw, how it made him feel, and ultimately the fact that he was forced to call the cops on the cops because of his concerns. There's a subtle point, I think, there, which is that any effort to argue that Williams was anti-police will ultimately
You need something,
fail,
huh?
because
One of your
what he
rides?
did,
Let me know.
when he saw something happening that was wrong with, he called the police. But he rejected. He was concerned about this one police officer who he viewed as a criminal. Devastating
Okay, I got stuff to do.
Williams today. Yesterday you had that 911 dispatcher who called the sergeant to say, look, the video feed that is coming from that area is
Morse Mutual, we're here to help.
These back-to-back
I think we can handle that.
Something early on was troubling. Just adds more to the prosecution case, does it not? That people who are observing this were noticing a troubling pattern here.
What you need, boss? Some wheels? I can bring them around.
You know, he was so persistent, but almost polite early on, trying to get the officer's attention. He gets more agitated, but he never really rolls over into anger. And all of the jurors are sitting there asking themselves, how would they have asked in his situation? He seems to have struck really the right balance. It's, I think, incredible in the circumstances that he continues, knowing that the police, you know, who are engaging in conduct that he's watching could certainly turn upon him, that he continues to ask for them to do something based on his training. That's really important evidence for a jury to see, because they can put themselves in Mr. Williams' shoes and they'll see his credibility.
And of course, Shaq, we heard earlier today from that first underage witness, Darnella. We're not going to use her last name to help protect her identity. She taped that scene on her phone that the world has now seen, the knee on George Floyd's neck. She had some emotional testimony about what she saw today that the rest of the world also saw.
Like fantasy, you're gonna love this. Join forces with your friends in clan events and boss battles. Over 10,000 possible builds per champion. Upgrade your skills, artifacts, and masteries. Your clan awaits you. Claim victory together.
Alright, I'll get back to work.
Shadow Legends. Download now and play for free.
Really emotional testimony. And you know, these two witnesses are really two key bystanders, because Darnella was the one who recorded it, and Mr. Williams, he was one of the more vocal people on that scene. And when we look at what the jury has been seeing and how they've been reacting, we know that with Mr. Williams, they were connecting with him yesterday. He would turn and make eye contact with them. As far as the reaction to Darnella, well, it was after this moment that they really dialed in.
When I look at George Floyd, I look at my dad, I look at my brothers, I look at my cousins, my uncles, because they are all black. I have a black father, I have a black brother, I have black friends. And I look at that and I look at how that could have been one of them. It's the nights I stayed up apologizing and if we're not doing more and not physically interacting and not saving his life, but it's like, it's not what I should have done. It's what he should have done.
According to the 2 reporters allowed in the room, they say that during that part, all of the jurors seemed very sympathetic at the end of Darnella's testimony. There's been one juror in particular that has been a little bit more expressive, sometimes showing emotion behind her, even through her mask, I should say. And that was definitely a moment that stuck out with them. You get the sense the jury is really paying attention to this very emotional testimony.
A very powerful moment for anyone that was just listening to that. I can't imagine what it would like to see it as well. Chuck, we've heard from powerful testimony from the 911 dispatcher yesterday that I alluded to earlier. 3 other compelling witnesses today. Let's talk about the defense strategy so far. What do you make of the defense team trying to push back on 2 of them?
Well, I'll tell you, Eamon, having tried lots of cases and made my share of mistakes, I saw a big one from defense counsel. Cross-examinations are hard. Good cross-examinations are very hard. And Mr. Chauvin's attorney went too far. He did what we call opening the door to something that really hurt him. That tape you just played of Darnella speaking about how she is haunted by her failure to do more to help protect Mr. Floyd is an example of the defense attorney opening the door and inviting that redirect examination that was so emotional and so compelling. What did the defense attorney do wrong? He asked Darnella on cross-examination whether the fact that she took a video of the incident and the fact that it went viral, whether that changed her life. That permitted the prosecutor to get back up on redirect, a second shot at something that would not have been relevant or admissible earlier, and say to her, okay, you just asked about how your life has changed. How has your life changed? And that led to the clip you just played in. So it was a mistake by the defense attorney to open the door and to permit that redirect by the prosecution that led to that very compelling testimony by Darnella. She is haunted by the fact that she didn't do more. She's not at fault. She didn't do anything wrong. She thinks she did. And I can tell you that will resonate with the jury.
Yeah, I was going to say anyone who might think that she benefited from that is sadly mistaken when you hear how much emotion she has had to endure as a result of it. Joyce, one of the other testimonies that we heard today, a witness 9 years old. This is obviously a very delicate balance for the prosecution to put someone that young on the stand. Walk us through the thinking. What's the purpose of putting someone that is 9 years old on the stand? What do you make of that witness?
It's always difficult to decide whether you put a young child on the witness stand. But in this case, it looks like it was a good call. It is, I think, very painful for us as lawyers to see a 9-year-old child process this. It is likely that she, at some point, felt strongly about testifying and being able to share her side of the story. And she's a very accurate eyewitness. She testifies to the fact that when the ambulance arrives, they actually have to remove Officer Chauvin from George Floyd. And it provides a compelling look. You know, children, when they see these situations, they testify very directly about what they observe without some of the filters that adults can employ, so they can be very direct witnesses. It was a good morning for the prosecution, Eamon, but I used to always tell my lawyers, the prosecution has to convince every juror. They have to get unanimous agreement among the jury to convict. So even with a good morning like this, you can't get too far ahead of yourself as prosecution.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And to that point, Shaq, let's talk about the jurors for a moment, because obviously we don't get to see them. We don't get to see their reactions. There are observers in that courtroom, including some of the pool reporters. What are you hearing from the reporters inside the courtroom that we're not seeing on TV, not just about the jurors, but the general atmosphere of how today played out?
Right. And just to recap, I mean, we use that term pool reporters. This is a rotating group of reporters. 2 of them are allowed in the courtroom at a time. It rotates between different networks and different newspapers. And those are the accounts that we're relying on for this. So pardon me as I read a couple of the notes right now. I mentioned how they reacted to Darnella's testimony and how impacted they were, and how one reporter said there are many noticeable expressions of sympathy when she talked about apologizing to Floyd for not doing more. Just generally, though, what we've been seeing is that they've been taking notes. They've been engaged. They've been looking at the video. They've been, apparently the chairs have wheels on them, so sometimes they swivel back and forth as different witnesses are answering questions from the prosecution. You also get a sense that during those sidebars, when the judge puts on the headset and when the attorneys are conferring with the judge privately, that they're actually talking to one another, that there's a certain level of familiarity between expressions there. So there's some camaraderie, some level of comfort that they're building with one another during those moments when there is no testimony and there's that uncertainty. I know it's a little bit awkward when we watch the testimony sometimes when there's that silence there. So that's what's going on inside the courtroom. I know yesterday, for example, we saw, once we got to the afternoon section, we got reports that some jurors were bringing in coffee or cups of, that appeared to be coffee. No one examined what was in them, but cups of coffee cups that they came to put on their desk. So that's kind of what we're getting as the jury is paying attention to. They are the focus of this trial. That is who the prosecution, the defense, and even some of the witnesses, as you saw, are focused on as this trial continues.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.
Work your style without overworking your hair. For salon quality hair at home, Tresemme Keratin Repair with BondFlex technology builds new hair bonds with every wash. Get 20 times stronger hair with new Tresemme Keratin Repair.
Olivia, you were on that commission, on the task force. It took my breath away to hear Deborah Burke say, we have an excuse for the first 100,000 dead, but the rest bother her.
I watched the special. Obviously, I knew it was going to be hard for me to watch it. I knew that it would be painful given everything that we have lived in the last year and the number of deaths that we've now seen. And I knew that Dr. Burks faced very challenging circumstances, but I saw it firsthand. I did see her take a stand internally at times, but, it still haunts me every day. I think about this every single day, and it's just a very hard thing to watch these doctors. And I'm glad that they're finally coming forward. I'm glad she's telling people what this was really like firsthand. But I just wish that they would have come forward sooner, I guess, is really all I have to say about that. It's painful, and it's hard to think back that it didn't have to be this way, obviously, and what happened at the behest of this house.
But you knew better. You left. She knew better. And I want to show you something else. It turns out Redfield and others knew better, too. Let's watch.
I was on more than one occasion called by the Secretary and his leadership directing me to change the MMWR. Now, he may deny that, but it's true. The one time that was the most egregious was not only was I pressured by the Secretary in his office and his lawyers, as I was driving home, his lawyer and his chief of staff called and pressured me again for at least
So, what exactly was your relationship with Wendy Williams?
Brad, you always said, at the end of the so-and-so, listen, no, I don't care about answering this. Wendy Williams had implicated a lot of people into where she was getting her job, quote, her job, per se. And a person like me, I never thought that it will get that far. So when I heard all these names get brought up besides me, I thought it was a ploy for her to get what she get with stardom. You know what I mean? Because people already knew me. I'm not going to get back on because we had this conversation last year with you before, whatever. And but again, I could have easily, put that dirt on her, as far as what she did and how it went down. Because she was a fan of mine, me and her was friends the whole nine, and then for her to do that, it kind of made me look at what happened with Puffy, when Puffy got her fired. And people was, and her and Tretch had the argument, and you start hearing Red and Meth, you start hearing people like that. I knew, oh, this is a big game, this is a big, it's a point for her to get famous, because all of a sudden, it's 1,000 names, so
all Morse Mutual operators are on call right now. Please try again later.
I could have really put her under, at that time, and be like, listen, are you trying to tell me X, Y, and Z that, this stuff for me, you never was friends, this and that, so, it went dead. Like, I didn't really put too many things on it. After a while, I figured that, okay, it was a play for her to get where she got to now, once all the names was implicated besides mine.
Now, were the two of you romantic or just friends?
Nah, it wasn't no romance now. She just happened to be a fan of mine. You know what I mean? As far as this, again, people can go back to so-and-so and see that she played the songs on 1947, Kiss at the Time, this and that. She was always talking about me all the time. You know what I'm saying? This and that. So she was, again, you could tell that, you could tell she liked me in the whole nine. You could tell that, whatever. And for it to get to that point, I just never went at her. I never thought to go at her. I never thought for that part. But again, you heard other stuff that you probably heard out there, and what if you heard was true? If you heard that, it was just the truth.
Well, I just never knew the part. I mean, because I guess the way it was presented, like in Unsung, was that y'all two had sex and you gave her like some bus tokens and she was mad about that. Like that's the way it was.
No. I didn't give her no bus tokens. She was dropped off at the train. It wasn't no bus token. She went to the train. But I didn't drop off. My boy did.
Okay. Because I didn't even know this. I didn't even know that you guys even knew each other.
And everybody around me can verify that story. That's what I said before. It's so long ago though. But again, she's grown. I'm grown now. But anybody can verify that story. Anybody know me glad. I don't give anybody talk about some niggas' wives like Murray and Keith said on Unsung. They'll tell you. Nobody can front on me as far as when I was out there and I was the #1 so-and-so. I don't care if you was married, if you had people who are married to these girls now or got boyfriends from them right now, they can all say, yo, yeah, I know Eric. Because that's how I was moving in New York City, period.
People are not asking the right questions. They're not asking the right questions because they kind of think they already know the answers. Check.
Breaking news at noon, a woman found dead outside an apartment complex in Gainesville early this morning. The case turning into a homicide investigation. Good afternoon, I'm Rob Hughes. Police have been on scene all morning long, and that's where we find CBS 46's Tracy Rabb with breaking details. Tracy, what are you learning?
Well, Rob, the scene is clear now, but I'm told both GBI and Gainesville PD were here on the scene together. They're now working to figure out exactly what happened to them.
Investigators in Gainesville are actively working to learn all they can after they say a woman was found dead at this apartment complex near the intersection of Tate Street and West Side Drive.
It's a shock to me that you're telling me this right now.
This man lives just steps from where the woman's body was discovered. He asked me not to share his name, but says he heard some unmistakable sounds last night.
I heard a few pops last night. You know, I was standing in my bathroom, and my bathroom window can hear everything from this side. And I heard like 2 or 3 pops, but I didn't think anything of it.
Right now, Gainesville police aren't sharing many details, but they are calling this a homicide investigation.
This is very rare, especially coming from, you know, right here where they at. You know, they all seem to be church people around here. You know that church van right there? They always seem to pile up and go to church.
As they work to learn all the details surrounding this woman's death.
Sorry, my common sense goes out sometimes because, you know, they can find out what happened.
Now you can see the crime tape is still out here. I will say that Gainesville PD say that they have now ordered an autopsy in hopes of figuring out exactly what happened. You can count on CBS 46 News to bring you the latest details as soon as they are available. Reporting live at Gainesville, Tracy Bragg, CBS 46 News. Tracy.
Breaking news in
New at 6, a CBS 46 exclusive. As a driver plows into diners enjoying a day on the patio, things turn from calm to chaos in a split second. It all went down on Dogwood Drive in Hapeville at Impero Cafe.
Yeah, scary moments there. CBS 46's Sierra Cummings. She's there live. And Sierra, you were able to speak exclusively with some of those people on the patio. How are they doing?
They are optimistic considering the circumstances. Now, it's a mess where this crash happened at Impero Cafe. The patio section now roped off. Check it out. We've got tables, chairs, debris everywhere. The 2 women who were injured here Saturday night say they're just thankful to be alive. Surveillance video capturing it all. This was Saturday night just before 9 o'clock. 2 cousins, Donna and Carolyn, say this dinner was nearly their last moment alive. A dark colored car comes from across the street, slamming into the patio wall, almost completely taking the 2 grandmothers out. They believe it was by God's grace. They only had serious injuries, but a scary moment for them. They got out of the hospital today. At one point, when Donna was buried under the rubble, she thought she wasn't going to make it.
We were saved by the grace of God. I thought I was dead. And I kept thinking, I'm dead. This is not real. And then when I finally came to, I just felt like, what happened? Because it just happened. It was quick. We had no time to prepare.
And you know what? As I mentioned, they are incredibly positive and optimistic considering they almost lost their lives. Now we're waiting to hear back from Hapeville Police Department to see if that driver faces charges and how they even lost control of their car in the first place. Those updates coming up here at 9 and 11 o'clock tonight. Live at Hapeville, I'm Sierra Cummings, CBS 46 News.
Sierra, thank you. And a CBS
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start showing Exhibit 11, and I'm going to let it run for about 15 seconds, and then I'm going to pause it. Yes.
Norse Mutual Insurance. How can we help you? I think we can handle that.
Hello everyone, it's me, Demetra K of the Demetra K Show here on YouTube, and the proud contributor of the African Diaspora News Channel and the African Diaspora News Insider. If you can do me a favor and subscribe to all the channels and like this video, I would greatly appreciate it. So imagine with me, if you walk into the bank, a bank that you've been at since, for about 16 years or so, and you want to go and withdraw some money because it's your money, right? And the teller tells you, well, the money is available, but I just don't feel comfortable giving it to you. Well, that happened to Gwen Samuels. She is the CEO and founder of Connecticut Parents Union. It happened in Southington, Connecticut last week, where she says, she walked into the bank as usual to withdraw some money to pay a vendor. She wanted to withdraw $1,000, and she said the following happened. She says, she hands me my license and says, I don't feel comfortable giving you the money. So I got confused, so I said, you don't feel comfortable giving me the money? She said, well, you just deposited the check yesterday. Samuel then pointed out to the teller that she had already verified the check had cleared.